Nice to have you along. We have a great presentation for you today, and thank you for being part of our Genius community. If you're new to our community, a warm welcome to you. Thank you so much for being with us. We truly appreciate it. And we're just going live now to our YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you go to Ariel Policano on YouTube, we certainly do appreciate it. Well, as I told you, we're going to be talking about Alzheimer's and the genius. We're going to do a case today. We're going to have a great time together. Lots to share with you. So excited to be with you. And let's go ahead and we'll get started. All right, well, hello and welcome, and thank you everybody for being part of our class today. It is so nice to have you along. We're really thrilled that you're with us, and we're even going to be having a practitioner forum, a featured practitioner today. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. So I'm going to bring our practitioner up to be a panelist, but please wait before showing your camera and switching on your audio. So we're going to go to that in just a few moments, and our practitioner will be in the batter's cage, just waiting to join us. So let's just wait now before we have her sort of join us live. And if you didn't get a Zoom, you do have to register for the Zoom, and then you will get a reminder. So if you didn't get a reminder, then you're probably not registered, or the reminder link is going to your spam folder. So you have to be registered for this particular class. It's on our events page. Once you register, it will start reminding you weekly. Okay, so thank you very much, Susie. I appreciate it. The sound is distant for all of us. Let's go ahead and correct that. Thank you very much for letting me know, Susie, but we've got it now. So I think you're going to find that the sound is a little bit better now. Okay, now this, are you a practitioner? Are you a genius practitioner? Would you like to be featured during our weekly class? If you'd like to be featured during our weekly class, we would love to have you join us. And what we will do is in the weekly newsletter, we will promote. Oh gosh, thank you very much, Susie. You're really awesome. It is on YouTube, so it is going to be recorded, but thank you for the reminder. Yeah, appreciate it very, very much. Okay, let's get some sound here. Okay, you're the best ever. I appreciate you so much. So if you're a practitioner, you'd like to be featured on my weekly training, this is a new thing that we're going to do. I would love to hear from you. So send me a message, Ariel@geniusbiofeedback.com, and we'll talk about your practice. And then we'll also put your website into our weekly newsletter and even on our blog, because you can learn more about today by going to geniusbiofeedback.com, go to learn, and then go to the blog. And on the blog, we'll feature your website. We'd love to send people your way. Once people learn more about who you are, then they will come to you as a practitioner. We talk about this a lot in our business membership. Our business membership is described at geniusbiofeedback.com, talking about how to grow your genius practice and what you need to do to market it. And we give you all types of forms and training to do that. And then we also have a listing, geniusbiofeedbackpractitioners.com. So we have a website just for practitioners where you can look up our practitioners and see if there's one that you want to work with. So we can also feature you on this website. So we really super appreciate you. And thank you so much for, again, being part of our Genius Biofeedback community. So today we are going to talk with one of our practitioners before we go into our lesson for today. So I'm so excited that we're going to have one of our practitioners join us. Let's see if we can get this. Okay, we're going to be talking to Sunshine Goodfellow. She's joining us today in just a moment. She's super talented. She's really well trained in many areas of holistic health, including being a certified life coach. And also she's done our practitioner certificate levels for Genius Biofeedback to become a better practitioner. She works with the restoration of a person's essence, gathering up lost pieces of yourself and cultivating self-acceptance. And that's what we really all need, is self-acceptance and self-love. So let's now welcome Sunshine to our Genius Weekly training and find out how she's doing with her practice. Okay, Sunshine, hello and welcome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me on this call.
Wonderful.
So,
I know you got your Genius maybe was about 6 to 9 months ago.
yes, last November. So we're going almost to a year.
Okay, I knew it was somewhere around
Yeah.
there. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, tell us more about you discovering the Genius, learning the Genius, and then how it's been incorporating it into your very diverse practice.
Yes. So I learned about the genius, I think I've figured out maybe 7 years ago. And I played around with it and it seemed so expensive at the time. Of course, much less expensive than it is now. So um, I really, I desired to have it then, but I didn't see a way for me to get the genius at that time. And so, of course, what happened was one of my children they were in the middle of a health crisis, and I was doing all the things I knew to do. And so I was, just going through all the things. And I thought, what about that genius scan? I think I need to look into that.
And that
And
was something that
so,
Araya had shared with you. So something about Araya's,
yes,
maybe her experience with it kind of rubbed off on you, or
yes,
she kind of took the lead from her.
yes, yes. And so I used that on him, um, and he was in severe pain. So I just did the scan in the kitchen. He was in the bedroom. I got the information from him, and then I was going in and doing, putting everything in the tray. And I'm just, working off the cuff here. And I put the things in the tray and I start playing it and walk into his room. And he said, "Mom, what did you do? Seriously, what did you do? I feel 70% better already." And
That
I
is
was like,
amazing.
wow, yeah, wow, there's really something to this. And so, of course, my desire to have it bloomed even more. And talking to my husband, us discussing about investing into this equipment. And we jumped in at the elite pricing. And I said, I will, one of the things that I'm dedicated to is whenever I get into something, I want it to pay for itself. And that's important to me. So I said, yes, I said, I'm dedicated to having this equipment pay for itself one way or another. It may take a little time, but that's just something I desire. So I use it. I've got plenty of family that, of course, can use it and benefit from it. So I started my mother on it. She's got an interstitial lung disease, incurable, whatever. And so, so we started working with the Genius, and we've done a lot of other modalities, incorporating everything together. And she wrote a testimony just a couple of weeks ago about how her required oxygen has decreased. And so she believes that listening to the frequencies every week is really, really instrumental in that. And so we all know that there's not one magic button, right? But there's things that can really move the needle towards health and wellness or better well-being. And the Genius definitely is one of those tools that are so wonderful. So like I told you, I started with the elite program and I was ready to go to the master elite really quickly after that. However, the elite had not paid for itself yet. So I started brainstorming, how can I bring this to people? I put my original price point at $199 for a
Per
weekly scan
session,
every week, which
per
is,
session.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, that's very affordable. However, I decided for friends and family, I was going to go even more inexpensive than that. And basically, I contacted my people and said, I am wanting to upgrade. I'm ready to upgrade and I need some help supporting. And you'll have this amazing weekly scan. And so I've got 25 people with me now that do that scan, and I love to earn while I learn. That's another
What do they do that for
value I
one? Is that
have.
199? Do they do that 199 a month to get a weekly scan?
No, they did way cheaper than that. I started at a $27 price point for the
Okay, so they
first
would get $27 per scan or
no,
$27 a month?
$27 a month. Yes, because
There's
I
not,
needed to bring in some income.
but you know what?
And so,
Learn while you earn. That was really smart, Sunshine,
mhm,
because you were giving away, but also you were receiving because these people were your confidence builders. They were your,
mhm.
I'm going to make a mistake here and there, or I'm going to learn more about the frequencies. So often in our business membership, we have some private coaching, and I tell people to set that threshold to what they think that they can get people to say yes to.
Sure,
And so you did
sure.
the same thing. And so now, as that evolved, is that how you got the 25 people?
Yeah, so I set a certain amount at that $27 price point. And then I've moved up to $39. I will move up to 40. Now the price is currently $49. And so I'm allowing a certain amount of people in that tier. And my resting price will probably be $199 per month. I'm in Oklahoma. The nice thing about what I'm doing personally is that they upload all their information to their app. So there
Their
really
Quantum
is,
capsule.
other than yes, the quanta capsule, other than performing the scan, there isn't really a lot of
So you can do it in a really
back
short time
end
period.
energy
Right.
spent. Yes, so I can they turn theirs in on a certain day, and I have 24-hour turnaround to provide them with that code. And so really, I can do it in my pajamas at home. I can do it however I want. And I've even recruited one of my children. I'm training her on the
That's so
process.
smart. So that she's
Yeah, of
facilitating
working.
the exports and so forth and helping you with the
Yes.
actual technical. Because if you think
Yeah.
about it, really it's up to you. You know, you can get administrative help in helping to do this and follow up emails and things like that. So if you have $49 a month at 25, that's $1,200 per month. And if you thought about in terms of the elite, then really in about 3 or 4 months, that is completely paid for. And everything on top of that
Yes.
is completely profit, except for maybe what your website costs are and things like that.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're looking for some recurring income with a genius, figure out what works for you. And like you said, get to where you believe that people will pay for it and be really, I wanted to be really, really excited. And this is, my mother pays for this. My mother-in-law pays for this. This is that $27 was for my closest friends and family that I really wanted them to not have a reason to say no. And the process is, once, if you want to cancel, that's totally fine. You can cancel at any time. The price will never return to that amount. So where can you get a wonderful scan for less than, I think it comes out to be about $7.50 if you've got a 4-week month. If you have a 5-week month, it's way less than that. So they're getting benefit. And it was a founder's special. You're helping me pay for this equipment. You're helping me get my practice off the ground. And, so they're doing something wonderful. I'm offering them a wonderful price. It's a win-win.
I absolutely love everything about you. It just screams success. Like that is such a really level-headed approach. It was so smart. What do people tell you who are in your rotation that they get from having the scan and receiving the frequencies?
Yeah. So they're always so surprised how on target the scan is, what they receive in their tray. And I love the aura portion of it. We make sure that we send the aura to them in the report so they can
Nice.
have that information as well. Um, but uh, balanced emotions, people have said balanced emotions. One lady, she said, "Could you please scan my chicken? He's about to die." And I scanned her chicken, and 3 days later, she got up and she went on with her life. She's
I
alive
love
today.
that story. We hear so many
Yeah,
stories like that. I love hearing
yeah.
that. I bet she was so delighted that her chicken
Oh,
was
yeah.
better.
Yeah. And my uncle went to the hospital for cellulitis, and so many things came up that were relevant for that. And we played the scan, and he was able to come home. All kinds of wonderful things. Some
Well, wait,
people
slow down a
focus
little bit.
on,
That's an important story. Tell us that story. That's a
yeah,
beautiful
yeah.
story. Yeah, tell us
So,
about what he experienced.
yeah, he goes in the hospital. He's got muscular dystrophy and goes in the hospital occasionally for cellulitis. And it's typically a 3 to 4 day stay. And he was able to come home within about 36 hours. And so that was
Wow.
wonderful.
Yes.
So
You always want to be home where you can be comfortable.
I love about do this benefit me doing. I play all uh, the main items out of the first page. I play those until they get resolution. So they're getting, and I tell them that don't beat yourself up too much if you don't listen to it all through the week, every week, because you are getting a benefit just by me conducting the scan on you. And
So
so
you do some balancing before you
that
send
helps
the
them. But I've
frequencies.
had some, oh, I can't hear you anymore.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Hmm.
now? Your internet was a little bit slow. Can you hear me now? No? Okay, keep going, Sunshine. You can just go ahead and tell us. I think we can still hear you. Now we can't hear you. Now your sound isn't on. She can't hear me. Go ahead and just keep speaking. Okay, but you muted yourself. Okay, you muted yourself, just to let you know. Yeah, you must have muted yourself when you were trying to hear me. All right. Well, we may have to do some changing around here. Okay, let me just see what's going on. I'm going to give Sunshine a few minutes to sort of poke around there and see what's going on. Your video is on here. Your microphone was on here. Let me just summarize a little bit. Sunshine is doing such amazing work. It's like she's had so many great results with her family, and she used a founder's special, a low-priced introduction to really kick off her practice. So Sunshine, I would invite you back. We're going to check in with you towards the end or even next week. But right now we just weren't able to hear you. And I think it's the speed of your of what's going on. So let's just briefly see if we can get you back here. I don't want to sort of do too much time technical stuff because I know people get impatient. Okay, Sunshine, are you there? I think it was your internet speed was slowing down a little bit. Oh gosh, we still can't hear you. Let me see if I can adjust my microphone. Okay, it's still not coming through, so let me just go ahead and stop the video. I really want to invite you back for next week, or even at the end, we'll check in with you. But I know everybody on here just loves your energy and everything that you've brought to your clients, including your family with the Genius. And Sunshine is a great example of somebody who just made up her mind. I don't care if it's $27 a month. I am going to start this process and I am going to be successful. And that is the way to do it, because this Genius is incredibly profitable in the right hands, but really because you're putting out so much energy. All of you know that you're telling people things about themselves they would never hear from other sources. The Genius is amazing that way. And we know from our 8-week research project that when people ran the frequencies of the Genius, which would apply the same on a capsule as it does on the Genius, and they ran just things from system overview, 15 minutes per day for 8 weeks, and their symptoms, as they reported them, decreased well over 50% over that 8-week time period. All right. Well, Sunshine, thank you so, so much. I know everybody on here is sending you lots of love and appreciation. We do want to hear from you again, and I'm so grateful that you were on with us today. All right, let's go ahead and let's turn our attention to Alzheimer's. I know a lot of people came here today to learn about Alzheimer's, and it's a really significant issue today, and I want to talk to you about using your genius. We also had a volunteer check in today, so we've already put her information into the genius, and we'll be working with our volunteer. So let's just make sure that you are on with us. If you volunteered with Madeline and you said you were going to be on today, make sure that you have your camera and your information ready to join us. We've already put you into the genius so that you can spend time with us today. And we're going to turn our attention to you in just a little bit. So if you want to volunteer in advance, or if you have somebody who's interested in the genius that wants to volunteer to be part of our sessions, then you can do that at geniusbiofeedback.com. Send me a message, Ariel at geniusbiofeedback.com, and we will make you part of the experience. All right, so let's go ahead and just see what we've got here. We're going to get started and talk about the genius. And it's amazing what's going on. Okay, all these wonderful experiences that we're having with the genius, very, very exciting. And we're going to get everybody included in that. And all of our participants will eventually have her come up as a participant in just a few moments. So thank you again for volunteering, and we'll be calling on you soon. All right, so what is Alzheimer's? What causes it? What can be done about it? We want to talk about that in terms of the genius, but just in terms of real life, what causes it? What is it? It is such an emerging issue. And right now, you know, even in the United States and the Western world, we have millions and millions of people who currently have Alzheimer's, a form of dementia. And what can we do about it? What should we know about it? That's why you came here today, right? Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia currently. It's a progressive disease. So a lot of times people start to notice it starts off slowly, where people have still retained a lot of their memory, and unfortunately they lose that memory short-term and then long-term over time. Okay, it's a loss of an ability. You'll see in the beginning, you'll see mild memory loss, loss of an ability to carry on a conversation, respond to the environment. It involves parts of the brain that control thought, memory, and language. And in 2020, we had almost 6 million people with Alzheimer's, and it's just continuing to exponentially increase from there. There's a lot of thought that the, I'm just going to say the experiment, which cannot be named, very likely is going to cause even more of an uptick in this dementia issue in some form. We'll talk about why. The number of people living with disease doubles every year, every 5 years beyond age 65. So age being one of the biggest risk factors. And, toxicity builds up in your system, and toxicity is a huge part of why this happens. Okay, and so, all right, I think we might not have our volunteer for today, which is from Madeline. So Madeline, if your friend is not on today, then we'll just table it for another time. Thank you very much for trying. Okay. All right, so what happens in the body, especially if you read about Rachel Carson, Silent Spring, and you can look at this online, is something called bioaccumulation. Bioaccumulation happens up the food chain, and for example, in fish. So there's lots of mercury that was released into the ocean, unfortunately, from different industrial sources. And so the small fish consume the mercury, and then the larger fish will consume the smaller fish, and this mercury will not go away, but it'll accumulate to higher levels in the fat tissue of the food chain. And it also accumulates over time. So as people age, part of the issue is that they accumulate these metals over time, and part of their ability to clear the metals from their system decreases over time. So this could be one of the reasons why age is part of the issue. And of course, in general, neurologically, people do diminish over time with age, and it certainly seems like toxicity can be part of the contributing factor to make it accelerate. All right. The advancement on this is so tricky. Oh, please cooperate with me. There we go. All right. So how is Alzheimer's diagnosed? I think, a lot of Alzheimer's diagnosis comes out of a family member or a spouse observing that in their loved one. And they see that the person's memory, they're starting to forget certain things, they're not responding in the same way. But when they go to see a doctor, they will get a neurologic exam, something called cognitive functional assessment, to see what their cognitive ability is. They may get brain imaging like an MRI, and then also you can do cerebrospinal fluid tests, but this is very invasive, like a spinal tap, very invasive. But they take all the information together to really sort of come to this presumptive diagnosis, because it's really imaging of the brain, which is more done post-mortem with the neurofibrillary tangle. So while they're alive, it's really sort of a presumptive diagnosis, putting all the pieces together. You can kind of arrive at, yeah, this is probably what the person is dealing with. All right, so let's talk about some of the screening and how you know that they possibly have Alzheimer's, what you should be looking for, what you're thinking about. So people will first demonstrate, well, this is called Alzheimer's dementia screening. This is literally from a questionnaire, and they say, do you notice a change? Do you not notice? Do you notice that it hasn't changed, or are you not sure? But I think all of these things are things that a lot of people would report functionally. So I'm not sure I really agree with this. It's called the AD8, or Alzheimer's Dementia Screening 8. Anyway, it says you have problems with judgment, like making financial decisions, problems with thinking. Are you showing less interest in hobbies or activities? Are you repeating the same thing over and over? Questions, stories, and statements. We've all had that relative that has done that. Trouble learning how to use a tool, appliance, or a gadget. Forgetting the correct month of the year. That obviously is a big one. Some of these could be attributed to stress. I mean, who wasn't stressed out during the pandemic? And it's like all these things could be attributed to some level of stress. Long-term stress does have a physiological effect on the hippocampus. It causes shrinkage of the hippocampus, which in turn can be associated with dementia. So long-term emotional stress is not good for your long-term memory and cognitive skills. All right, but I think one that is even more really significant is something that's done typically in neurological exams, which is your mini mental status exam, or mini mental state exam, to be more precise. This is where you go see the neurologist and they'll ask you some of these questions. I think these are more revealing for more of a meaningful loss of cognitive ability. And you may notice some of these things in yourself, and this means you need to get Johnny on the spot to doing things, different things to exercise your brain, to make sure your blood sugar is healthy, to make sure your cardiovascular health is healthy, stop drinking alcohol. Certainly most people are not smoking anymore, but all of these things are contributory, and we're going to talk about others as well. What they say is, what year is it? What is the season? What is the date? What is the day? What is today's date? What is the day of, what would you call today's day? Is it Monday? Is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday? Then they say, I'm going to name 3 objects. And for the time that we're talking, I want you to remember these 3 objects or words, and they'll usually be unrelated. So it could be, horse, sewing thread, and, tea kettle, something like that. And you have to remember those until the doctor gets to sort of 10 minutes further in the conversation, is going to come back and say, now I want you to name those objects or things that I talked about earlier in the conversation. They'll also say count backwards from 107s and stop after 5 answers. You have to go, okay, 100 minus 7, 93, 93 minus 7, this number minus 7, you have to count backwards. You have to do some math in your head. So all of these things are asking, what is the cognitive functionality of this person at that time? And, you might say, oh gosh, counting backwards by, 7s, that's really hard. But you would probably answer all of the other ones. So it's the preponderance of the cognitive ability, okay? Take a paper in your hand, fold it in half, and put it on the floor. Most people are going to be able to do that. And so it becomes very, very quickly, very clear who is having a cognitive challenge based on these different tests. And then from there, They do MRIs, brain imaging, to see if you can notice some of the changes that would be associated with dementia or Alzheimer's. Now, as far as root cause, I noticed already in the chat, everybody has their ideas, and it's certainly good to have, to be thinking about things. The Genius gives you hints. You can read, we're going to talk about some papers that have been published, and I'm just going to tell you from my naturopathic perspective, some thoughts and ideas. And we've put this into our library, which is Alzheimer's Assessment and Alzheimer's Solutions. And let's talk about them. So first one is heavy metal toxicity. From mercury and aluminum are the two top ones that we believe may be associated with the development of Alzheimer's. Now, there has been a huge effort on behalf of what we call it the mainstream media or different periodicals to say, gosh golly, there's absolutely no association between aluminum and Alzheimer's, none whatsoever, can't be proven. So this has been really, when they're telling you something so loudly that there's no association, don't look over here, you should just wonder, like I wonder, wonder about that. Why are they saying that so strongly? So if you look at some of the articles published by Dr. John McDougall, he has some great information about Alzheimer's and aluminum. And he talks about Alzheimer's, just to review, discovered by this Alois Alzheimer, that's the name of the disease. This doctor noted it in the early 1900s, and he was able to notice these neurofibrillary tangles. The neurofibrillary tangles are called pathognomonic because if you see these neurofibrillary tangles, which are often identified after the person has already passed away, then they really tell us this is something that's happening at the neuron level. The neuron is being destroyed, so the neuron signals we're not transmitting them correctly anymore. But why do people get these neurofibrillary tangles? So a strong case for this has been evidenced in two papers. But most disease is multifactorial, and I'm sure you all know that. You're going to have aluminum, there was some emotional predisposition. The person had experienced a lot of emotional stress trauma at some time in their life. They also had fluctuations in their blood sugar, which we're going to talk about. They also had cardiovascular or circulatory issues that compromise the circulation of oxygen to the brain. So when all of those things come together, right, then Alzheimer's will express itself. Because of diet, lifestyle, things that people have in common in the Western world, you're going to see this over and over again in people because they cannot take on this type of dietary burden, the type of burden of these exposures. And you also see this in heart disease. Heart disease is still the number one, issue for health, like the number one killer in the Western world, heart disease. And heart disease, it's talking about circulation. It's not just your heart, right? Circulation to your brain. We talked about this in the cancer bonus class and library discount club this month that Andreas Moritz so well said in his book about cancer, that the same issues that lead to heart disease actually lead to cancer. It's all about a clear and clean circulatory system to get oxygen, glucose, and nutrition to all of your cells. But let's talk about aluminum toxicity. There are two important published scientific reports on the connection between aluminum and Alzheimer's. In the Journal of Science, published in 1980, X-ray spectrometric evidence of aluminum accumulation in neurofibrillary tangle-bearing neurons. So they saw that there was actual aluminum accumulating in the neurofibrillary tangles. Scanning electron microscope and X-ray spectrometry examined the pathognomonic lesions, meaning the neurofibrillary tangles, and aluminum was found in the nuclear region of the cells of the neurofibrillary tangles. So this is the article. You can look it up. You can read it for yourself. And it's interesting, the elemental content of the neurons of the hippocampus, where all the action is, where a lot of memory, this is the memory center in the brain. And once again, you literally shrink the physiological material of the hippocampus when you are stressed out for long periods of time. So it has a lasting effect on the brain. That's why meditation, relaxation, cognitive ability, and ability to talk yourself through stressful situations and achieve a place where your body is not short-circuited by the ongoing issues in your life or issues in the world. This is extremely important to find that peace within yourself for your own health. Your own health depends on it. Also, there was a second report published in March of 2017, established a direct human connection between aluminum accumulation and the brain and the severity of Alzheimer's. You know, just like mainstream news, and you all have alternative sources that you go to, we have to have alternative sources for health information, because if we just follow the lead of what is on Google, they're going to lead us to a very specific conclusion that they want us to come to. Those who developed Alzheimer's disease in their late 60s and older have more aluminum in the brain. Now, it could be just bioaccumulation over time. It could be at the time, they had, more aluminum maybe when they were younger, and now we're starting to see the effects of it bioaccumulating up the food chain. But what is very important to know that has aluminum, and sometimes very concerning forms of aluminum in the thing? Can you guys know the thing that I'm talking about? That all of these things have aluminum, and what do older people tend to get? The flu shot, the pneumonia shot, right? All of these things, what do we know that they get? What do we know that they participated in recently? All of those things have aluminum as what's called an adjuvant, and it is meant to overstimulate the immune system so that it produces massive amounts of antibodies that is being sought through the action of the inoculation. So this is something to really think about. How much are they getting? I know people who are over 60 who are getting this every fall. They're getting another one. And, goodness knows what else in the recent couple of years they might be participating in. So something to keep in mind. We do have libraries for this. You all know about vClear, vShed. We have something now called Vitality Restoration Tools. And that's for people who did do the experiment, people who didn't do the experiment. You can go and learn about that on the website at geniusbiofeedback.com. So what can we do? We can run frequency. Sunshine gave us such great examples of where she didn't know what to do for her son. She didn't know what to do for, I think it was her mother-in-law. And all of these people, she just started to run the frequencies. Well, I have this thing, I better run the frequencies. And all of a sudden they're just like, wow, I feel better. These frequency, and even frequency sent at a distance, still has so much power to do so much good. So remember that you can use frequencies, and frequencies would be a good solution in times when we have no idea what to do about certain issues. Okay, so you can actually find water, different sources of spring water that is high in silica. You can look for this on Amazon. You can look for it in your grocery store. And so you can drink water high in silica. The silica will help the body to flush out the aluminum. You can also take clays. Clays are very good for heavy metal detox. Also sweating. When we look at the different things that are really stand out as good tools for overall health, you want to have quantum biofeedback, right? You want to have the genius in the rotation. You want to have something that's probably, PEMF, pulsed EMF frequencies. But one thing that you want to have also in your tool chest is a sauna. You want to have a way to sweat on a regular basis. So if you can get an infrared sauna, if you can get a regular conventional heat sauna, if you can go to your local gym, maybe once or twice a week and have a good sweat. They even have the saunas where you have a very small space and it's like a portable sauna. Get something that will help you to sweat on a regular basis, because a significant amount of toxins can be released through the sweat, including heavy metals. So humic acid, fulvic acid, these are supplements that usually take as a liquid supplement. Zeolite is great for binding up heavy metals. And of course, we have the library heavy metal assessment and heavy metal solutions. Other things to consider: blood sugar imbalances immediately starve the brain of glucose. So if you have ups and downs where you go throughout your day, and when you don't eat every 2 hours, start to go, oh my gosh, I'm bonking out, I don't feel good, you probably have some type of mild blood sugar imbalance, and you should do something about it until you don't have those ups and downs. So many people are maybe a little bit overweight. Okay. And when you start to gain weight, the diabetes or blood sugar issues, or basically insulin resistance, it tries to stop you from getting that sugar into the cell so that you don't actually gain more weight. It's actually it's like a survival mechanism, because way back, if you weighed too much, then you couldn't like get into your cave to be safe, and you couldn't also fight off the tiger. So this is a very long time ancient mechanism that helps the body actually from gaining more weight. So when you reach a certain threshold that your body is sort of predetermined, it could be genetics, whatever it is, that is when your body will say, nope, no more. And it will just sort of resist insulin resistance, getting the sugar into the cells. So think about it. It's from too much fat. It's from too much consumption of food. Merely saying, I'm just going to leave sugar out and I'm going to eat everything else that God could ever imagine arriving on a plate is not a good idea. It is the rich Western diet that causes blood sugar imbalances. We were never meant to consume this much fat. Even your olive oil, your peanut butter, these are all ending up at the end of your day to lead to a composition of fats that's too high for the body to handle. The best thing you can do is eat whole, unprocessed food, eat lots of potatoes, sweet potatoes, even pasta, rice, whatever it is, make that the staple of your dish, in addition to vegetables, fruits, etc. But knock off a lot of the nuts, the oils, the eggs, the butter, the milk, chicken, fish. All these things are just too high in fat, and they cause early insulin resistance or ongoing sort of low-level insulin resistance in most people. So what happens the minute your blood sugar is not regulated correctly, you're not getting enough glucose to your brain. And over time, this is probably a contributory factor to the reduction in cognitive ability, leading to dementia. And the most common form of dementia today is Alzheimer's. So it causes episodes where not enough glucose is nourishing the brain for long periods of time, over years. Okay, another root cause that is sort of related to this is atherosclerosis. So over time, we have a library called the Endothelial Repaving Program, and that whole library is dedicated to raise our awareness that we may have diminishing ability to produce nitric oxide from the endothelial lining of the vessels. And when this happens, there are different foods, free oils that over time really rob us of our ability to produce nitric oxide. Also, certain foods build up plaques in the vessels, and both of these things, which are kind of related to each other, they cause the difficulty in putting oxygen into the brain. So we could take things like ginkgo biloba for circulation and really focus on foods that really help to bring us better balance in our body. And it's really the high fat foods, any type of oil. I don't even really recommend nuts and seeds unless you're underweight. You want to keep that weight really optimal weight, because anything over that might trigger this early insulin resistance. If you're really looking for those keys to what is going to stop the aging process, what is going to keep me alive for a long period of time, you want to microscopically study everything that has to do with good circulation, protecting the endothelium, having optimal blood sugar levels. These are the real keys to anti-aging, which are beyond supplementation, because supplementation is an easy way out for most people, but you're not, and it's great for the supplement companies, you're not being told the real truth, which takes some effort to correct and really learn a new lifestyle, a new way of being. Okay, so to summarize, when you're working on cases, what you want to do is really work on Alzheimer's assessment solution, heavy metals, toxic exposures, blood sugar, heart and circulation. You could also work on, we have that one called Endothelial Repaving Program is a good one. Of course, you can work on the brain. We have one called brain glymphatics, which works on the mechanisms that clear the brain of different metabolic waste. That's another good one. And any time that you're working on harmonizing the brain, that's a great thing. Okay, so we did have a volunteer. Let's see if the volunteer made it. I don't think that we did. So we'll take another volunteer. If you'd like to volunteer today to have me work on you, then let's quickly go ahead and have you volunteer, and we can answer any other questions that you have about the genius in the meantime. So let's read some of your comments. And if you want to volunteer, we can do a quick case today. And let's see what we're doing. How many playlists do you send to a client each week? Well, Sarah, you could send as many playlists as you want to your client each and every week. And you could tell them, you could play this playlist in the morning and this playlist at night. Two is sort of reasonable if they're working on two different things. They could have a playlist for energy in the morning, and they could have another playlist for sleep at night. So that might be the way to do it. Let's see, age is a factor, but probably an increase in the number of meds that people are taking. And when you want to think about meds, is there something in the meds? Maybe there's aluminum in the medication itself or some other heavy metal. What is it about the medication? Maybe it's slowing down their liver detoxification, things like that. Okay, some could also be attributed to a concussion. Certainly some cognitive decline. Definitely that's going to be a contributory factor is we call traumatic brain injury. And we actually have some libraries, traumatic brain injury assessment, traumatic brain injury solutions. Depression and dementia have most of the same symptoms. There are a couple of symptoms that determine which one it is. Thank you very much for that, Barbara. And if you think about it, depression could also possibly be attributed to not enough oxygen perfusing to the brain, which would affect the neurotransmitters. Are we exposed to aluminum equally through injections and through cookware, or is one worse than the other? Well, think about it. Which one is going to be stronger? Something that you consume through your digestive system, and when things go into the digestion, they become disabled. The liver has an ability to look at whatever you take into the body through the liver first pass, and it has an ability to say, I'd like to detox that, I'd like to clear it from the body, or I'd even like to make it more water soluble so it isn't as dangerous to that person. But what about when you break the skin and you put something right into the bloodstream? So Dale Ann, think about it. Which one is going to be more concerning for that person? If you go and study some of the work of we've lost him, he's now passed away, Dr. Robert Marshall. He really was a pioneer in helping us to understand the implications of breaking the skin with a needle. And I think it was the health ranger, Mike Adams, who did literal lab tests that showed that when you get any type of injection, you guys know the type I'm talking about, that there's a massive buildup of heavy metals right at the site of the injection. For just for one thing, just to know about. So that's happening. So there's a lot that happens just in the breakage of the skin. It's a massive disruption to your energy field, and it's something that we probably shouldn't really just take for granted. Like, oh yeah, it's no big deal. Just, roll up your sleeve and, no, don't be hesitant about this. I think your whole body, even sort of has this response where you sort of, jerk back for a moment and you're like, I'm not sure that I want this. Your body is probably energetically telling you there's probably a reason for that. Okay, Sarah, we're going to go with you today. So Sarah, thank you for volunteering. And I'm going to have you come up as a panelist in just a moment. And we're going to do a quick look at some of the things. Now, somebody might not have Alzheimer's, but they might have some of these things really come up for them. Now, why is that? Because you could have slow changes over time, which today are not significant, but they might be significant in 30 years from today. But how about if we know about them today, then we could actually do something about it energetically, run the frequencies, and even make lifestyle changes. And I think this is one of the best use cases for the genius is sort of in this area, even though we can't say prevention. I think you all wink, wink, nod, nod, kind of get the idea of what's going on here about how powerful it is to raise your level of awareness of these things. It's really, really powerful. Now, you guys, if you have any questions about the genius, now is a great time to ask them. So if you have any other questions about the functionality of the genius that you want me to kind of work in while I'm doing a case, now's the time to do that. And thank you so much for volunteering today, Sarah. We really appreciate that so very, very much. And let's see if you're there, if you're joining us. Fantastic, really appreciate it. And I think we just really need your voice anyway, because I'm still having this picture issue, but I'm going to go ahead and get your voice. So let's go ahead and get you, if we can get you on camera, it's great anyway, just to see you, to be able to talk with you. I know you've joined us before. You joined us for the trivia contest, so that was awesome. Sarah, how are you?
Pretty good. I wanted to say thank you for the trivia gift. Me and my daughter love it.
That is awesome. What did we send to you?
We got the chakra stones.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so great. Such a great set. Yeah, that's fun. Oh, that's so cool. Well, I really,
Yeah.
we sent out a variety of different gifts to our all of our people who have participated. So I'm so glad you got it. And thank you again for participating. That was a fun day.
It, it was going along with the concussion thing.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of the things that I'm seeing neurologically with the concussion and concussions come up in my genius scan for so many people
Well,
that
that's so interesting that you say that because that is something that also Dr. Bob Marshall used to talk about. He would say that many people have long-term effects, and he even classified this as an interference field as he classified injections. And he would say most people don't remember falling, but almost everybody has had some significant fall, maybe when they were a kid, they slid, whatever. They fell, they don't remember. And so that's interesting that your genius is calling it back up for its significance. Isn't that fascinating?
yes, it's amazing because I'm like, when I first started, I looked at my husband, I'm like, when did you have a concussion? Like, I know when it came up for me.
That's amazing. I'm sure it's very significant and important to clear this energy out. So it's wonderful that you're doing it for the people that you're working with.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love to watch the things pop up that surprise me or you have the symptoms over here and then you have the genius confirming everything that you're seeing.
Confirming and then bringing up that sort of unknown, that wild card that even as a trained naturopathic doctor, I would never have thought of. And the genius is so, can be so objective, just going to universal consciousness and saying, hey, you need to look at this, you need to consider it. And it's such an asset, but it's really the practitioner that like yourself that takes the time to say, oh my gosh, I bet this is significant and takes the time to notice it. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get your voice. And in just a moment, I'll start the recording. I'll count you down here. I'll start recording in 3, 2, 1. I'm recording.
A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y, Sarah Corman. A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y. I am working on total body health. A-E-I-O-U and sometimes Y. A-E-I-O-U.
Perfect. Fantastic. And is there anything that you want us to look at for you in particular? Well, even though we'll focus this on cognitive stuff, some things might come up, but that doesn't mean that they're, present at this time. It could be something that needs to be cleared, but is there anything in particular you want me to look at?
Well, I know I missed the cancer one, but I'm curious. I have a lot of ancestral cancer, so.
Okay. Cancer's up the genetic line. Okay, I will look at that. Sarah, I'm going to let you sit back and relax and enjoy this, and we'll come back and talk with you in just a little bit, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh, Sarah, it's nice to have you back again on our class. I'm just going to turn off the video just for 1 second while I grab some of my books that I use for cases, and we'll show them to you in just a moment. And we have such a wonderful community, and we have some other comments in there, so I'm going to read in just a moment here. But yeah, we just have such a great community. And of course, this is Heal Your Body by Louise Hay. I like to look at that, given certain symptoms or conditions. I like to look for the metaphysical sort of connected reason why somebody may be having this issue. And I love floral acupuncture because I love to talk about the flower essences. It sort of lets the person understand themselves at a deeper level. So now let's go ahead and let's look at the aura for Sarah for today. So let's go ahead and get the aura. I apologize about the picture. I'm still trying to figure out how on my desktop, I'm going to have to take a screenshot and then upload the screenshot. And sometimes it's hard to do that during the fast pace that we need to work in our live class. So that is the only reason why that's happening. It's almost 2 minutes to the hour already, but we do want to spend a little bit of extra time going through this case. So I'm going to take this now. I'm going to take a screenshot right here, and we're going to take a screenshot of the aura. And so these are just, this is like, reminds me of like Monday morning blues, just getting started on the Monday. And you see things are just a little dark and cloudy. And that might just be how you, even just like wake up in the morning, you're like a little bit of brain fog. And so all this cloudiness should start to clear up. We've got this beautiful purple, which is going to be associated with your sixth chakra right here, intuition. And there's this beautiful green energy, so connectedness to the heart. Let's hide the avatar for a moment. We've got sort of this neutral color. I'm not really sure what to make of it. I'll give it some thought. And this beautiful white. So white can also be associated with the seventh chakra. So if you don't know what white is, it can be associated with the seventh chakra. Let's go ahead and back out here. Let's go ahead and look at today's stress. And today's stress says brain. Well, perfect. Brain, bacteria, degeneration, adrenal sensitivities. So let's go ahead and let's put those into the tray. And let's go ahead. Pathogens, fungus, connective tissue, inflammation. You know, I wonder really if overall, just based on all the stress and everything that we're really facing these days, if just sort of there's a immune system suppression overall that we're all sort of facing collectively. And you want to think about that. You know, what genius frequencies can you run for your immune system sort of on an ongoing basis? And particularly as we head into cold and flu season, even if you think you're healthy, even if you think that you're doing well, there's a lot of things in the environment that are causing our immune system to be sort of suppressed or not expressing what it could. So think about all the supplements, all the herbs, all of the frequencies, things that you can do to constantly sort of be in support of your immune system. And any type of emotional stress that's going to elevate your cortisol. Elevated cortisol is always associated with diminishing or depressing your immune system. You can remember that by thinking of cortisone cream. When you have a real rash on your arm, and it's like somebody says, "Oh, you have a rash on your arm. Let's go ahead and give you some cortisone cream." And you spread it on the rash, and you're like, "Oh, the rash went away." Well, what happened? You know, it's not like the cause of the rash went away. You simply removed the body's physiological response because the cortisone suppressed the immune system. And so now there's no visible or painful response. Now that can have some, useful case, like it's good to break the cycle sometimes, but just remember that you haven't really gotten to the root cause. So let's go ahead and let's look at a few of these panels. Let's look at Alzheimer's. Now, Sarah, this comes up for a lot of people. So depending what might come up, is very common. Some of the things that could come up. Acetylcholine is interesting because it's a neurotransmitter associated with short-term memory. And there are even supplements like Huperzine A that you can take in order to improve this acetylcholine. But it's good to see a naturopath and really figure out if that's the right way to go. This could just be a frequency today that needs to be cleared. Please remember that whenever we have things that come up, like even neurofibrillary tangles. Just talking about the neurofibrillary tangles and being concerned about them, they may not exist at all. This could be in the family line. That's why I wanted to sort of, prepare you in advance. But would it be a good idea to run Alzheimer's assessment for yourself when you don't have it? Yes, because you're probably clearing out. Remember, things build up in the biofield before they get laid down into the physical body. How about if we clear this out now? And so this says mercury. That's really interesting. So the other heavy metal that has been considered to be associated with Alzheimer's is mercury. Where do we get mercury from? Yes, it's in fillings, and certainly if it's in your mouth, it's leaching. It is significant, but most people either had them removed or no longer get fillings with mercury. So you have to remember that fish is a very significant form of mercury contamination. And yet, fish and fish oils are still promoted. I don't think it's a great idea if you want to avoid being contaminated with heavy metals. Autophagy is the body's ability to clear out metabolic waste from the body, autophagy. And if you've read anything about intermittent fasting, they talk about when you're fasting, that this is a time that the body is able to put a lot of energy into cleaning up the brain. And this is the autophagy, autophagy energy. So emotional trauma, virus, heavy metals, amyloid plaques, insulin, oxidative damage. So you may also, want to do some of your own, maybe blood sugar testing at home. This is probably something we should give a class on. Like, how could you get a little glucose meter and start to read your blood sugar at home? Now, there was a really good question here from one of the people in the chat. What about diabetics who have to take shots all day, every day? For a person who's a type 1 diabetic, they are still going to have insulin, but they can follow certain lifestyle things they can change in their diet and lifestyle that will help them to have to take the minimum amount of insulin, because having to take insulin is not good. If you're talking about other shots, other types of blood glucose medications, usually those aren't injected, and insulin is the one that's most commonly injected. If you're type 2 diabetic, you want to work your diet and lifestyle, and you certainly can find out. Send me an email. I hope to do another course on this soon. We did give a course with one of the practitioner levels about blood sugar. They'll tell you everything you need to know. There is not one person that could not significantly improve their type 2 diabetes and get off their medication by following these very specific lifestyle considerations, which basically is like eating potatoes and rice, believe it or not. But it's leaving behind the sour cream and the milk and the butter and the free oils. And that's what really is needed. It is fat that blocks the insulin receptors more than anything else. And that's just really important to know. Okay, so now we go to Alzheimer's energetic solutions and phosphatidylserine. So phosphatidylserine is really cool because it binds up cortisol at night. You take it in the evening and it helps to just chemically cause the cortisol to become inactive through binding it up. And if you've ever taken phosphatidylserine like right after dinner and then like an hour before bedtime, you sleep like a baby, even if you're under a lot of stress. So phosphatidylserine, green tea, bentonite clay for binding up those metals. CoQ10, coenzyme Q10 helps with the mitochondria to work better. Benfotiamine, this is a form of fat lipid-backed vitamin B1, which is important for cognition. Gymnema helps to regulate blood sugar. There does seem to be a theme in these frequencies about blood sugar. And for Sarah, it could be really minor today. She could be a healthy weight, but they even found in college age kids that are sort of normal weight and they don't present as being any issue, that they had the first stages of insulin resistance. And it has to do with this intramuscular fat that they have from eating like the regular Western diet. There's just too much fat and it's affecting their ability to regulate blood sugar by affecting the insulin receptor. Bacopa helps to increase the circulation of blood in the brain. It's great for focus. It's great for memory. Read about Bacopa, vinpocetine, and even just taking good old ginkgo biloba as a wellness supplement, as a wellness herb to keep everything open in the brain, to keep that blood flowing in the brain. It's a really great and pretty innocuous supplement. Okay, let's look at a couple of other libraries to demonstrate what we've been talking about today. Heavy metal assessment. So that's interesting. Bismuth. Did you ever take Pepto-Bismol as a kid? Cobalt, barium, cesium, palladium, lead. Not everything from the Genius should be read as, okay, this is actual fact, but there's a preponderance of sort of some exposure from something to some heavy metals, which is kind of interesting. And then we've got thallium, aluminum, tungsten, copper, platinum, ethyl mercury, antimony. She probably doesn't have all these exposures, but maybe sometimes when you see a lot coming up, but you think, gosh, those all can't be actual exposures. It could be because the liver detoxification is compromised. Something, not everything in biofeedback is extremely literal, but you have to sort of put the pieces together. Heavy metal exposure solutions. Let's see, we've got nothing up top. That's interesting. Colonic, cilantro, L-methylfolate, trimethylglycine, and pyrophyllite clay. So these are solutions that help to clear the heavy metals from the body. And let's go ahead with, we had the glymphatic clearing, brain glymphatic clearing. This helps to clear the brain of toxins, helps the cleansing mechanisms of the brain. So let's see what we've got. Maximal drainage of the glymphatic system, deep delta waves for maximum glymphatic function. Part of what helps to clean the brain or cleanse or clear the brain is deep sleep. Proper deep sleep is part of the cleansing mechanism of the brain. All right. Okay, injections. Are you talking about, Joan, about some of an injection of a diabetic medication? So like the other sulfuronides, things like that. You're talking about other types of diabetes medications besides insulin, and some of those are extremely toxic. And really, this is another thing for really good thing for a class that we really should have. Some of those medications are very toxic and they're completely unnecessary. Most people's diabetes type 2 could be corrected very, very quickly, and they could be quickly cycled off of those medications. Okay, so let's get the flower essences in there, and let's get the flower essences that are blue in there. Let's go right to our get to the meat of this, get to the core essence of this by going to the progressive insights. And interesting, cherry plum comes up at the top. Cherry plum, oxidative damage, gorse, autophagy, astroglial cells. You know, autophagy, because maybe we're not getting into deep sleep. All right, rock water, lots of flower essences coming up. Yeah, deep delta waves for maximum lymphatic function. So I think sleep and blood sugar being sort of the two interesting things that have come out of the testing today that to me really stand out. So cherry plum is like when there's a lot of sort of energy built up and it's waiting for like a release. So that's what the cherry plum energy is about. So cherry plum is a remedy for fear of losing control of your temper. In milder forms, cherry plum is useful for addressing temper tantrums in children. As it releases pent-up forces, cherry plum's sweet, deeply calming energy facilitates an ability to surrender and trust in the goodness of life. Just the idea of cherry just makes you happy. They say that the actual cherry itself, the fruit, helps you to produce healthy levels of melatonin. All right, so we're almost done. Let's see what our rectification percentage is. The astrology this month is upcoming lunar eclipse on the 28th is affecting the collective. Yes, I noticed from the astrologers that they talk about that we're in eclipse season and that we're in between the eclipses. Okay, I wonder about people who have had tattoos done by needles, not the stick-on types. You know that expression, this is from Susie, you know that expression, Susie, don't even get me started, is how I feel about that. I worry people like starting with the sort of the millennial generation who just adopted sometimes massive amounts of tattoos. So tattoos are, the inking tattoos have been historically filled with massive amounts of heavy metals. And think about just the concept of breaking the skin with a needle and now doing it many, many times over in the inking process. I can only imagine. I mean, I really, send energy and blessings to anybody who made that decision. And some people with ink all over their body. I think there should be like a major warning, like on a box of cigarettes. Like this could be incredibly consequential for your health. You're just all the heavy metals in the bloodstream and the interference fields caused by the process itself. So you bring up something really, really interesting about that. All right, so now let's go ahead and see what our rectification is, and we're going to check the ending aura. And gentian was the top essence that came up. We got a 36% rectification. Since we're over time, let's go to the aura now and just go ahead and see what change that we've had. That was cherry plum that released all of that energy. And now we have gentian. So let's see what our aura looks like, and then we'll talk about gentian, and then we'll wrap everything up with a bow and call it good for today. All right, so we're almost there, and we have got a good question in the chat there. Wow, what an interesting difference between the two energies. Everything instantly lightening and brightening up. We're going to look at the two auras, and we'll bring Sarah back on in a moment, but says gentian is useful when you have been making progress on your path, yet you suffer a setback. As an essence, gentian brings into proportion the resulting disappointment that you are back to where you started. So you're never back to where you started. It's like a labyrinth we're walking in a little bit, and then we're walking out a little bit, and then we're walking in a little bit, but overall we're moving out from the center. We are making progress, even though it's not always in a pattern that we recognize. So let's see if we have the original over here, and we're going to bring this on here. If it would cooperate. There we go. There we go. And let's go ahead and see if Sarah is still here with us. So Sarah, what were some of your thoughts about the information that came up during the scan today?
Definitely hit parts that I don't sleep good. I also hit stressed points where it's like narcolepsy and I zone out.
Wow, that's interesting. That could also be blood sugar related.
Blood sugars are an issue. Although I test at the doctor's, the test is fine. But I know that if I get low, I feel wonky.
There's a test that you can request called the glucose insulin tolerance test, and it happens over a series of hours, but it's much more revealing than simple fasting blood sugar. And what it's looking at is how your insulin is reacting to a big input. They have you drink like a glass of glucose basically, or like a maple syrup type of a thing. And then they look at how your insulin reacts over a period of 4 hours, and they draw blood at different intervals. And it's much more revealing of what's truly going on with blood sugar than just fasting blood sugar is just simply insufficient.
It wasn't even this last one I did. They didn't even do a fasting. They just took my blood sugar.
Oh yeah, they should do it fasting, because otherwise it's really not very meaningful.
That's what I thought, but
you had a beautiful response to the biofeedback. I look at that, moving from the gray and the dark coloring into like some nice bright colors there.
Yeah, it lightened up a lot.
All right, Sarah, thank you so much for being part of our class today. This was a great session to be able to do. Now, if you have a Quanta capsule in your name, go ahead and put that email into the chat so I can send you some of the frequencies from today.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. So fantastic. I love our community. Really, really great. Appreciate you, Sarah. Appreciate Sunshine so much. And Teresa says, I was at a biotic seminar yesterday and had my genius. I did a search for biotics and then went into the red and blue topic and added the red and blue from each one. Then ran progressive insights with all these items. Would the top ones in this window be the ones that the body would want physically? Generally, yes, that's the idea. The reds and the blues are certainly the frequency that the body wants. And over time, I have very much found a correlation. I love testing supplements with things like biotics, things like Apex, things like Standard Process, because they are giving you pretty much what the body really wants. And you'll see it for your client really lining up with, oh, I usually think about that supplement for that person. It isn't a complete slam dunk. You do have to use some discretion, but generally you're going to see a match between the reds and the blues and what the body really, really wants. All right. There's lots of other, sort of questions popping up here, but we're really sort of past the hour. So I'm going to save those questions. If you have other questions, you can send them to me, Ariel@geniusbiofeedback.com. We'll be back next week at this time. And so I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you, everyone. And if you want to be a featured practitioner, make sure you email me, Ariel@geniusbiofeedback.com. Just as we had Sunshine today, and we're going to share her website and what she's doing in her newsletter, we'd love to also share the work that you're doing. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so much. Be well, and bye-bye for now.